You've probably had this feeling before, that quiet, uncomfortable suspicion that maybe, just maybe, you're not as right as you think you are. It doesn't happen often. It sneaks in during moments of silence, when no one is watching, when the noise of certainty finally fades. Most of the time, though, you move through life with the confidence that your judgments are sound, your opinions are accurate, your skills are reliable. Of course you do, everyone does. But here's the twist. Every person thinks they see the world clearly, yet almost no one actually does. Humans are wired for misjudgment. And what's worse, the less we know about something, the more confident we become that we understand it perfectly. It's not stupidity. It's not arrogance. It's psychology, and it affects every single one of us. This is where our story begins. In 1999, psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger revealed something uncomfortable about human nature. If you lack skill in something, you also lack the ability to see that you lack skill. Think about how dangerous that is. It means that people who know very little believe they know a lot. People who know a lot often believe they know very little. And almost everyone misjudges themselves in some domain of life. It's a distortion that hides inside your confidence and whispers, "I understand this. I'm above average. I'm right." But what if you're not? Let me show you how deep this goes. The human brain is addicted to certainty. It wants clarity. It wants simplicity. It wants to feel smart. Because uncertainty feels like danger. So your mind creates an illusion of competence just to feel safe. Jung described this as the persona, the constructed mask you wear to navigate the world. A mask that insists, "I've got this. I know what I'm doing. I understand." But the persona isn't truth. It's protection. Beneath that mask lies the shadow, all the blind spots, insecurities, and gaps in knowledge you don't want to acknowledge and often don't even see. The Dunning-Kruger effect is not just a cognitive bias. It is a shadow phenomenon. A psychological blindfold, a shield your mind raises to protect you from the discomfort of not knowing. Why the truly competent doubt themselves. On the other side of Mount Stupid is a valley, a deep, sobering realization called the Valley of Despair. This is where knowledge becomes uncomfortable. You begin to learn more. You start to see the complexity. You begin to understand what you don't understand. And for the first time, your confidence drops. You think, "I know almost nothing. I was wrong. This is so much bigger than I realized. I can't believe I thought I knew this." This moment is not failure. It is awakening. This is where most people quit. But those who stay, those who keep learning, start climbing the third stage, the slope of true understanding, where confidence rises again, slowly, carefully, rooted in experience rather than illusion. This is where humility appears. Where curiosity replaces arrogance, where nuance replaces certainty, where wisdom begins. This is also where another psychological phenomenon emerges, one Carl Jung understood long before modern science. The more you know yourself, the more you realize how little you know about anything. He called this confrontation with the unknown, the meeting with the shadow, the moment you see everything your ego hid from you. Here's a truth most people never grasp. Experts are not quiet because they lack confidence. They are quiet because they understand the complexity. When someone truly knows a subject, they see nuance, exceptions, uncertainty, layers, ambiguity. They know that one sentence cannot summarize years of study. They know that certainty is often a sign of deception, not intelligence. They know that people crave simple answers, but reality refuses to be simple. So experts hesitate. They pause. They explain carefully. They doubt themselves responsibly. Meanwhile, the uninformed speak in absolutes. It's obvious. It's simple. It's just common sense. I don't know why people make it so complicated. But it is complicated. That's the entire point. The greatest experts in the world are the ones who see the mountain of knowledge and realize they've only climbed a single path. Nietzsche captured this perfectly. The more you know, the more you are disturbed by what you do not know. This is why real intelligence sounds like, "I might be wrong." This is what the evidence suggests. It depends. There's more to it. I'm still learning. Humility isn't weakness. It's accuracy. Ignorance speaks loudly. Wisdom speaks slowly. The most dangerous voices in society now combine the Dunning-Kruger effect with social media, a system designed to reward quick confidence over thoughtful nuance. Who rises? Not the experts, not the careful thinkers, not the quiet observers, but the loud, the certain, the charismatic, the oversimplifiers, the confidently wrong. And because the untrained mind confuses confidence for competence, these voices become leaders, influencers, experts, and authorities. This is how misinformation spreads, how dangerous ideas gain popularity, how people with the least understanding end up with the most influence. As Dunning said, incompetent people are often blessed with an inappropriate confidence, buoyed by something that feels to them like knowledge. And the result? A world where noise overshadows truth, where certainty defeats nuance, where charisma outruns competence, where the least informed become the most influential. This is the psychological ecosystem we all live in, and understanding it is the first step toward protecting yourself from it. But the next step is even more important, learning to identify your own blind spots. Not just theirs, but yours. Because the person most affected by the Dunning-Kruger effect might not be someone you dislike, it might be you. In the next block, we go deeper into the inner mechanism of self-deception and how your mind hides your ignorance from you, even when you think you're being self-aware. Here's the most unsettling truth so far: you don't know when you're wrong. You only know when you realize you are wrong, and that usually comes long after the fact. Human beings are blind in a very specific way. Not physically, psychologically. You don't see your blind spots because they're blind spots. And the human mind is uniquely skilled at hiding them from you. This is where the Dunning-Kruger effect becomes more than a curiosity. It becomes something darker, something Jung understood deeply. Your mind protects your ego by hiding from you the very things you most need to see. Let's go deeper. When you make a mistake in thinking, your brain does not say, "Warning, error detected." Instead, it says, "You're doing great. Keep going. You're totally right." The incompetent mind cannot recognize its own incompetence because the same mental tools needed to produce a correct answer are the tools needed to evaluate the answer. If those tools are weak, you fail at both tasks simultaneously. This means you make a mistake. You fail to notice you made a mistake. You feel confident anyway. You continue believing in the mistake. It's a perfect psychological trap. And the most frightening part? It feels like clarity. It feels like certainty. It feels like truth. Ignorance does not present itself as confusion. It presents itself as confidence. There's a misconception that smart people are less likely to fall for the Dunning-Kruger effect. But intelligence does not save you. In fact, research shows something surprising. The smarter you are, the better you are at rationalizing your mistakes. Highly intelligent people often build more elaborate and convincing wrong conclusions because they have the mental horsepower to defend them. The mind is a brilliant lawyer, not a seeker of truth. And your ego? Even worse. It wants to be right more than it wants to be accurate. Your intelligence simply becomes its weapon. Jung warned about this when he said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." In other words, you are not protected from your blind spots just because you think clearly. You are only protected by your willingness to question yourself. Today, we're exploring the fascinating and often misleading world of self-perception, specifically how we misjudge our own skills. Let's break down the cycle the brain follows when we encounter something new. Step 1. You try something new, feeling confident because you don't yet see the underlying complexity. Step 2. You think you're doing well, primarily because you don't truly know what good looks like in this new domain. Step 3. You judge yourself inaccurately, lacking the experience needed to make a truly informed assessment. Step 4. You make decisions based on this false confidence, which can sometimes be harmless, but at other times, disastrous. This cycle happens in everyday conversations, relationships, and even while driving. It extends to parenting, nutrition, politics, finances, and career choices. Even in arguments and, yes, opinions shared online, this effect is everywhere because human ignorance is everywhere. And recognizing this isn't pessimism, it's liberation. Now, let's explore why knowledge often creates humility and why we might initially resist it. As you learn more about any subject, be it psychology, math, music, philosophy, medicine, or physics, something strange begins to happen. The world becomes bigger, faster, more complicated, more layered, and ultimately more mysterious. And as the world expands with new understanding, your ego often shrinks. This is why beginners confidently declare, "This is easy." But experts, with their deeper understanding, often respond with, "It's complicated," or "It depends." They might also say, "I'm still learning," or "Let me check that." This isn't insecurity, it's accuracy. Certainty is often the comfort of the beginner, while humility becomes the burden of the expert. Next, we'll explore why we are so drawn to confident people, even when their confidence is misplaced. Humans are wired to follow confidence, decisiveness, loudness, and clarity, often prioritizing these traits over truth itself. In ancient times, confidence often signaled confidence. A confident hunter was usually skilled, and a confident warrior was typically capable. This inherent trust and confidence helped tribes survive. But today, confidence has become cheap. Anyone can display it, especially those who shouldn't. This is why incompetent leaders rise, incompetent influencers gain popularity, and incompetent thinkers sound convincing. It's also why incompetent opinions spread like wildfire. People often mistake certainty for authority, and the quiet, thoughtful, careful, and wise voices are often overshadowed. As Jung famously said, people don't want to know the truth. They want certainty. And false certainty is abundantly available. Finally, let's confront the most dangerous blind spot of all. Here is the real trap. We believe other people fall for the Dunning, Kruger effect, but not us. We see the arrogance, the overconfidence, the naivety, and the false certainty in others, and we shake our heads. But rarely do we turn that same judgment inward. Dunning himself said, "The first rule of the Dunning, Kruger Club, is that you don't know you're a member. If you think you are immune, you are already misjudging yourself." This is why self-awareness is not natural. It is a discipline, a practice, a lifelong confrontation with your own shadow. Jung believed that the confrontation with one's ignorance is one of the most difficult psychological tasks in life. Not because people can't learn, but because the ego resists reality. People would rather feel right than be right. Understanding these dynamics is crucial for personal growth and a more accurate perception of ourselves and the world around us. Carl Jung spoke of the shadow, the part of yourself you reject, deny, or fail to see. What most people don't realize is, ignorance itself is part of your shadow. Your blind spots, your false beliefs, your flawed assumptions, your illusions of competence, your inaccurate self-judgments, your hidden fears of inadequacy, your desperate need to appear capable. All of this lives in your shadow. And the Dunning, Kruger effect is simply the shadow at work in your thinking. It is the ego protecting itself from the pain of not knowing. When Jung wrote, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul," he could have been describing the mental gymnastics people perform to avoid seeing their ignorance. Self-knowledge is painful. Self-deception is easy. And the mind prefers ease. If you want to protect yourself from false confidence, if you want to escape the Dunning, Kruger trap, the first step is this. Assume you are wrong more often than you think. Not as self-punishment, but as awareness, as clarity, as humility, as strength. Because the people who grow are not the ones who believe they are always right, but the ones who are willing to discover when they are wrong. The next step is even deeper. Learning to detect your own blind spots before they cost you peace, opportunity, and relationships. And that's exactly where we go next. In the next block, we explore how to identify the illusions of competence in yourself, and how to dismantle them before they dismantle your life. If there is one universal truth about human cognition, it is this: your ego would rather protect your self-image than reveal the truth. This is why the Dunning, Kruger effect is not just a cognitive bias. It is a psychological defense mechanism, a shield the mind uses to hide from its own inadequacy. And unless you know how to detect these traps, you fall into them every day without even noticing. Let's uncover them one by one. One of the mind's favorite illusions is this: if something feels familiar, your brain assumes you understand it. You've watched 100 political debates? You think you understand geopolitics. You've read a few quotes from Jung? You think you understand depth psychology. You've been in relationships? You think you understand attachment theory. This is why people confidently give advice on topics they have never rigorously studied. The brain confuses exposure with expertise. Jung warned about this when he described the illusion of knowledge, the belief that understanding a word means understanding the phenomenon behind it. But naming is not knowing. And the more familiar something feels, the more your mind insists, I get this, even when you absolutely don't. Here is a psychological paradox. The stronger your emotion, the more convinced you become that you are right, even when you're wrong. Anger feels like clarity. Indignation feels like certainty. Hurt feels like evidence. Fear feels like accuracy. But emotion has no correlation with correctness. Confident people often sound logical because confidence mimics coherence. Calm, careful thinkers sound uncertain because humility mimics doubt. This is why heated arguments rarely lead to truth, only louder illusions. Jung believed that emotion clouds perception, that when we are overwhelmed, we mistake emotional intensity for insight. The ego is loud, truth is quiet, and most people listen to whichever voice screams louder. Perhaps the most dangerous sentence in the human mind is, I already know that. Because the moment you tell yourself this, your brain stops learning. The door closes. The curiosity dies. The blind spot expands. The people most vulnerable to this trap are not beginners, but the moderately knowledgeable. They know enough to feel confident, but not enough to see their own ignorance. This is the peak of the Dunning, Kruger curve, false mastery. You stop listening to others. You stop asking questions. You stop seeking nuance. You stop updating your knowledge. And slowly, you begin to live in a mental world built from outdated beliefs and unexamined assumptions. Jung would call this identification with the persona, clinging to the illusion of being knowledgeable instead of confronting the reality of how little you know. Humans rarely compare themselves upward. Instead, we compare ourselves to those who make us feel competent, a habit the ego loves. Whether it's coworkers who struggle, friends making poor decisions, or family lacking discipline, these comparisons offer confirmation you're above average. This selective comparison is a psychological trick to avoid confronting your actual place, protecting your self-image, but keeping you stagnant. Growth only happens when you compare yourself upward to those who challenge, surpass, and expand your perception of what's possible, though the ego resists this. When someone explains something complex and you nod along, it often means you understand the words, not the true meaning. Most people cannot tell the difference between recognizing vocabulary and truly comprehending a concept. As Jung warned, thinking is difficult. That's why most people judge judgment is easy, but actual comprehension is hard. Your mind will always choose the easy path unless you force it otherwise, leading people to believe they totally got it when they only grasped a fraction. The worst part is your brain hides this lack of understanding to protect your pride. Perhaps the greatest illusion is trusting your confidence more than your confidence, assuming you are right when you feel confident. This is the psychological vulnerability charismatic manipulators exploit, speaking with certainty and simplifying complexity to make certainty feel like truth. But to the psychologically mature, certainty is a red flag. As Jung noted, the larger the crowd, the smaller the soul. Meaning, the louder a mind becomes, the less depth it usually holds. Truth whispers, ignorance shouts. We love simple narratives like good versus bad or smart versus stupid, but reality is far more complicated. The Dunning, Kruger effect thrives in oversimplified thinking, where there is no nuance, there is no truth. The mind hates uncertainty, so it latches onto the simplest explanation. But simplicity is not wisdom, it is comfort, and comfort is the enemy of self-awareness. When faced with evidence of incompetence, the ego rarely says, I was wrong. Instead, it blames others. They don't get it, the test was flawed, or they misunderstood me. Blame protects self-image, but destroys growth. As Jung wrote, Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. But only if we resist the urge to defend ourselves and instead ask, what does this reveal about me? This question is the beginning of wisdom. If you cannot detect these psychological traps, your mind will lead you in circles your entire life. You will make decisions with false confidence, hold opinions built on air, and misjudge yourself and others. You will mistake noise for knowledge, boldness for truth, and certainty for intelligence. But the moment you learn to see these traps, the moment you expose your blind spots, everything changes. You become immune to false confidence, resistant to manipulation, and aware of your own limitations. You become a better learner, a better thinker, a wiser human being. And that leads us to the next step. How do you dismantle these illusions in real time? How do you develop the self-awareness that protects you from your own mind? This final block is the blueprint, not theory or philosophy, but a practical psychological structure you can actually live inside. Let's begin building a life where your perception of yourself gets closer to the truth every year, moving from illusion to clarity, from unconscious incompetence to conscious mastery. Most people think humility is something you are, but in reality, humility is something you do. It is a daily, conscious act of questioning your assumptions, examining your motives, and challenging your certainty. Acknowledging your blind spots is crucial, as arrogance is effortless, while humility is engineered, a deliberate discipline. As Jung said, the greatest enemy you have is the delusion you have no enemy within. The moment you assume you already know, your growth halts. Your illusions multiply, and your intelligence collapses into stagnation. Make humility a ritual. Every morning ask, where might I be wrong today? Every night ask, what did I misjudge today? Those two questions alone will evolve you more than any self-help book ever could. Nothing fuels the Dunning, Kruger effect more than environments where you feel like the smartest person in the room. Comfort is cognitive poison. You need friends who question you, mentors who correct you, and peers who outperform you. You also need critics who sharpen you and spaces where you're a beginner again. These environments push you past the illusion of competence and into the reality of growth. If your ego hates the room, your mind probably needs it. The greatest experts in the world share a single mindset: I am always a student. They never graduate, never arrive, and never settle in the illusion that mastery is final. As you ascend in anything, business, creativity, relationships, self-awareness, your teacher must evolve too. New mentors, new books, new challenges, new failures, new frontiers. Each one exposes a new blind spot and removes another layer of illusion. Growth is not a mountain you climb. It's a staircase that appears only after you take the next step. The modern world is full of loud amateurs and quiet experts. And because confidence impersonates competence, your brain can easily confuse the two. So you must learn to filter. Ask of every piece of information. Is this person qualified? Do they have results or just opinions? Do they offer nuance or certainty? Do they speak with curiosity or ego? Do they have knowledge complexity or promise simplicity? Experts are rarely absolute. Charlatans always are. Protect your mind the way you protect your home, guard the door. Growth happens in cycles. Attempt, measure, receive feedback, adjust, repeat. But most people skip the feedback step because it bruises their ego. You cannot grow if you refuse mirrors. So build feedback into your life. Weekly self-reviews, monthly mentor check-ins, yearly skill audits. Honest conversations, performance tracking, mistake documentation. A mind that avoids feedback avoids reality. A mind that seeks feedback accelerates evolution. At the core of Jung's philosophy is one truth: a fragmented mind cannot grow. A centered one cannot be stopped. You must cultivate an inner anchor, a psychic equilibrium that remains stable no matter how wrong you discover yourself to be. This is not fragile self-esteem based on being right. It is anti-fragile self-esteem based on learning. Repeat this truth until it becomes permanent. My worth is not tied to being right. My worth is tied to my willingness to grow. When your identity is no longer dependent on certainty, correction doesn't injure you, it strengthens you. You stop protecting your ego and start expanding your mind. This is psychological freedom. A quick truth: most people would rather feel smart today than become wise in 10 years. That is the root of the Dunning Kruger trap. Impatience fuels illusion. Long-term thinking destroys it. If you build a 10-year identity, a long horizon of growth, your short-term ego loses power. You no longer cling to being right. You cling to becoming better. Every mistake becomes fuel. Every correction becomes a stepping stone. Every blind spot becomes a map. This is the mindset of true mastery. This entire journey circles back to something you already learned in your previous video. Silence is not weakness. Silence is not submission. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is clarity. Silence is metacognition. Silence is intelligence. When you speak less, you observe more. When you observe more, you learn more. When you learn more, you shed illusions. And when you shed illusions, you walk through life with power, the rare kind grounded in self-awareness, not self-deception. Silence protects you from your own certainty. It gives your unconscious mind room to reveal what your ego tries to hide. This is Jung's path, a journey into the self that leads beyond the self. This is the truth that humbles everyone. You will never know the full extent of what you don't know. You will never see your entire shadow. You will never be completely free of illusion. But the goal is not perfection. The goal is awareness. Not to eliminate the shadow, but to walk beside it. Not to conquer the Dunning Kruger effect, but to live consciously in its presence. Not to know everything, but to see yourself more clearly than you did yesterday. That is human growth. That is psychological evolution. That is real maturity. And if you keep walking this path humble, curious, observant, silent, you will become someone rare in this world, a person who chooses truth over ego, clarity over confidence, growth over image, and wisdom over noise. This is the journey, and you've just begun it.